podcast and on BBC One. We now join the BBC's news teams where you are. Goodbye.
Hello, good evening. I'm Roger Johnson. Welcome to North West Tonight. Thank you for joining us this evening. Our top story, Paul Yuri, the Warrington aid worker captured in Ukraine, appears in handcuffs on Russian TV. The Russians claim he's a mercenary. He says he just went to try and help people. Also tonight, Samantha's miracle baby after the Blackpool mum was told that she wouldn't survive cancer. Faces of Fear, a hard-hitting campaign against domestic violence, gets royal support. Aha! Can Alan Partridge heal the nation? Well, that's the plan, as the Manchester actor Steve Coogan takes his most famous creation on the road.
Trying to heal the nation, that sort of arrogant scale of ambition, we thought would suit Alan.
And we've had some pretty dull, grey skies through today, but things should be a bit brighter for tomorrow. I'll bring you all the details at the end of the programme.
An aid worker from Warrington who was captured by Russian forces in Ukraine last week has appeared in handcuffs on Russian TV. Paul Yuri described how he was arrested at a checkpoint and told the Russian interviewer that he was there to show how the British media is lying about the war. His family has just told us before we came on air that they think that he was being forced to say things that he doesn't believe. Well, let's go live to the newsroom. Ian Haslam is there. You've been following developments, so bring us up to date with the very latest, Ian.
Hi, Roger. Yes, well, Paul Yuri was one of a group of British nationals who were shown on Russian TV, having been captured. Mr Yuri is accused by the Russians of being a mercenary, which he denies. To recap, we know he travelled to Ukraine alone, which he insists was to provide humanitarian assistance. It's understood he was near Zaporizhzhia in the south of the country, close to land under Russian control, when he and another man were captured by Russian soldiers at a checkpoint while on their way to help a woman and two children escape from the area. I've seen the video. Throughout it, Mr Yuri is handcuffed, and it's important to stress it's not clear if he is speaking under duress. In the footage, he said he wanted to see for himself whether the refugee crisis in Ukraine was as bad as it had been depicted on the news. He then talks about coming to a destroyed bridge and claims to have noticed that the damage there hadn't come from a Russian strike. He then says he took photos to, in his words, provide evidence that the media in England is lying, with the implication that Ukraine forces were in fact responsible for that particular attack. He also talks about being in Iraq and Libya in the early 2000s to help the revolution, with photos of him from around that time posing with a gun allegedly found on his phone, which the Russians say are proof of his intentions in Ukraine.
And they're claiming, aren't they, in that he's acting as a mercenary. I mean, it's incredibly worrying for his family here. And a prosecutor in Russia today has said that for mercenaries, the maximum sentence is the death penalty.
Indeed, Roger. Yeah, a Russian prosecutor has said that it is the maximum sentence, though it's thought to be unlikely that that will be implemented. Perhaps more of a scare tactic. We'll wait to see on that. The wording, though, is that Paul Yuri and the other captives are being investigated for crimes against the peaceful population of the Donetsk Republic. Now, I spoke to Paul's sister earlier on this afternoon at her home in Lancashire. She was obviously very upset. She didn't want to say anything on camera, but the strain on all the family was clear to see. And in the last few minutes, a statement's been issued from Paul's mum, Linda. It reads, "I've watched the interview on Russian TV of my son. This is physically my son, but he's not acting in his natural way. His words are too matter-of-fact and his facial expressions make me not believe what he's saying." She says, "I know my son like every mother, and this is not him being natural." That statement, Roger, just into us in the last few minutes or so. We will, of course, follow this story as it develops.
Ian, thank you very much. Ian Haslam there. Now, a social worker today told a court that Cumbria County Council would not have supported an application for a couple to permanently adopt a baby boy who died while he was living with them. 38-year-old Laura Castle is accused of murdering 13-month-old Leland James. She told social workers that she didn't love him and was struggling to form a bond. Our social affairs correspondent Kelly Foran was in court. She sent this from Preston.
Well, it was January last year when an ambulance was called to an address in Barrow-in-Furness to report that Leland James, who just weeks earlier had celebrated his first birthday, was unresponsive after allegedly falling off the sofa. He was taken to hospital with injuries so severe he had to be transferred to Alderhay Children's Hospital. His head injury was so catastrophic that he could not survive, and it was the medical team there at Alderhay that said his head injury just didn't tally up with Laura Castle's version of events, that he'd fallen off the sofa. She was arrested, as was her husband Scott. Laura Castle appears here at Preston Crown Court, charged with Leland James's murder. Scott Castle is accused of causing or allowing his death. The prosecution say he failed to prevent something that they claim was entirely foreseeable.
And Kelly, the reason that he was with the Castles is because they were in the process of trying to adopt Leland. So what has the social worker today said in court about that?
Yes, so at the time of his death, Leland James was classed as a looked-after child, placed with prospective adopters. Now, because of that status, there were regular visits from social workers or the children's team to the home, and a social worker told the jury here today that Laura had expressed concerns about not being able to bond with Leland James and that she'd said that she didn't love him. Laura's mother and Leland James's health visitor were also called up as witnesses here today, and they too said that Laura had spoken to them about not being able to bond with him. Now, 10 weeks into this placement, so 10 weeks of Leland James living with the Castles, a social worker told them that if they were to put in an application at that point for permanent adoption, then the local authority would not be able to support it. Instead, they wanted to work on those emotional issues. Now, it's the prosecution's case that frustration turned towards hostility towards Leland James. That led to physical abuse and ultimately, they say, his death. Laura Castle denies his murder. Scott Castle denies causing or allowing his death, and they both also deny further counts of child cruelty.
And that was Kelly Foran reporting earlier from Preston Crown Court. Now, the Duchess of Cornwall was in the region today. She visited the Emmaus Homeless Centre at Mossley in Tameside and met volunteers who are organising a community event called the Big Jubilee Lunch to mark the Queen's Platinum Jubilee next month. Well, over the last few years, the Duchess of Cornwall has spoken out against domestic violence. She's backed campaigns aimed at stopping it. And today, in Manchester, she launched a hard-hitting new initiative which aims to show that women from any background can be victims, as Jonas Muller reports.
The story behind every portrait is unique, but all are of survivors of domestic abuse. This new exhibition outside Manchester's Central Library has been put together by the charity Safe Lives. The Duchess of Cornwall is the patron. Today she met some of the survivors and was given a tour of the exhibition. By her side was Dawn Munro.
The norm has been not to speak about it, not to tell anybody. It comes with a lot of shame, a lot of stigma. So for me, I turned to my best friend who could relate to what I was experiencing.
Ali Crew is the artist behind the project. She experienced domestic abuse as a child and says the exhibition is the culmination of 2 years' work.
It was my lived experience, my childhood, and I think if you're going to make art, you should try to make it, from the heart, something personal. But then the work is not about me, it's about all of these wonderful, courageous, brave people.
The Duchess has highlighted the work of domestic abuse charities and what they do to support victims and survivors for a number of years now, with the aim of breaking the taboo around the subject.
The photographs are both incredibly moving and inspiring. Domestic abuse can and does affect anyone. In the last 12 months, 1 in 20 people have experienced such abuse in England and Wales.
You're a chief inspector, a senior police officer, and you're a survivor of domestic abuse. I shouldn't be surprised, or should I?
You shouldn't be, but equally, I think we don't talk about domestic abuse enough, and that it can happen to anybody. Actually, for those who are in positions of strength, and people are seen as powerful, whatever your job title is, that can be a barrier for you coming forward.
These portraits will be on show in St Peter's Square, but also across the city's Metrolink network as part of the SICK Festival. But the exhibition could be rolled out in other areas. Domestic abuse is not confined to one town or city. Eunice Muller, BBC North West Tonight, Manchester.
Very simple idea, but really powerful images, I'm sure you'll agree. Samantha Gray wasn't expected to survive her aggressive cancer, but doctors at the Christie in Manchester offered Samantha cutting-edge immunotherapy known as CAR-T treatment. Well, not only has Samantha now recovered, it's a lovely, inspiring story this, but she had a baby boy 3 weeks ago. Congratulations, Samantha. Lindsay Prosser has been to see Samantha and her family in Blackpool today.
Baby Walter is a delight, and to his family, he's also a miracle. Born after his mum, Samantha, had groundbreaking cancer treatment.
I never thought I'd even have another, be here, never mind have another baby. So yeah, it is a miracle, and sometimes I can't believe that it's actually, happening to us as well. 2 eyes gleamed out of the treetop.
After Samantha had her daughter Harper, she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Despite having treatment, the cancer came back.
We tried to start living our life normal again. And then obviously when it came back, it was just horrendous, because you just think to yourself, what else can they do for me now? I've had all this treatment, what's going to happen to us basically.
Doctors at the Christie in Manchester offered Samantha a new treatment, CAR-T cell therapy.
So CAR-T therapy is a clever way of taking out the immune cells and genetically reprogramming them so they fight the cancer cells, in this case lymphoma. You can then re-infuse them, and it's like an immune system reboot, which then means that the body is able to then control the lymphoma or the cancer you're treating in a way that it wasn't able to do it before. It's a very exciting treatment.
Yeah, cheeky boy, yeah.
Cancer treatment can leave some women infertile, but in February, Walter was born.
Yeah, it's brilliant, yeah. Got my boy, so want him to grow up, take him to the football. I've got my daughter, so yeah, happy.
Sometimes, like even looking at Walter and Harper and just thinking, is this real, because I didn't even think I could have another baby. Oh, a trail in the snow.
I guess simplistically, it's what makes you get up in the morning when you can do things like this, taking somebody who had extremely poor prognosis disease and being able to turn that around. It's truly transformational.
Little kiss.
The family are now looking forward to simply spending time together. Lindsay Prosser, BBC North West Tonight, Blackpool.
He really is a little bundle of joy, isn't he? We wish them all the very best. More than 100 years ago, a family home in Salford was converted into one of the first care homes in the Northwest for military veterans. Well, since then, 8,000 soldiers, sailors and aircrew, both men and women, have called Broughton House home. Now it's undergone a £12 million rebuild to turn it into what's thought to be the country's first care village for veterans. Andy Gill's been for a look round.
That one and that one.
That one?
Yeah, and this nice one.
And that's what we got to do.
D-Day veteran David Teacher gets instructions on using a giant computer tablet, one of the new facilities at the rebuilt Broughton House in Salford. David's mind is sharp, but equipment like this can be a big help for residents with dementia, especially after the isolation caused by COVID.
That technology then allows them to have another form of stimulation, particularly for the brains, and particularly for the residents that do have dementia as well. It works really well for them to get where they can colour, it's great for the sensory, for the touch, for the colours that they can see. It's really good for them.
David was an RAF mechanic in the Second World War, among the first to land in France in 1944, but he says he was never scared.
Though it was very exhausting, and we were shelled left, right and centre for 24 hours non-stop, it was not a real problem to us. We had a right giggle and we laughed it off.
So what does he like about his new home?
The kindness. Everything is to our convenience. They don't expect us to do anything that we don't want to do. The rooms are excellent. The facilities are very good.
Broughton House started taking in ex-servicemen in 1916. Charlie Fox from Manchester, gassed and wounded at Ypres, the first resident. So many wounded men were coming back from the First World War, there was a shortage of accommodation. The British Forces commander, Earl Haig, visited Salford after the war. But recently the old building needed updating, and £12.5 million has been spent on the new one.
This is something fit for the 21st century, and that will provide our veterans with the level of comfort and support that they very much need and deserve.
The original stained glass windows have been incorporated into the new building, and there's a museum to remind residents of their military days. The modern facilities, like a gym with equipment especially designed for those with limited mobility, are important. But the bosses here say that what makes Broughton House is the dedication of the staff. Andy Gill, BBC North West Tonight, Salford.
It's brilliant, isn't it? And David saying they were constantly shelled for 24 hours and just said we had a right giggle and laughed it off. It wasn't really a problem. Fantastic. We wish them all well at Broughton House. Now, let's talk about football. We're getting to the business end of the season. As you probably know, the Premier League will go to either Liverpool or Manchester City. Europe's Champions League could well too as well. We'll know that in just over 24 hours. After the second leg of the semi-finals have been played, City, who've never won the competition, are 1 goal up going to Real Madrid tomorrow. Liverpool are 2 up, also in Spain, for their match tonight at Villarreal. Ollie Foster is there. He's been chatting to some Liverpool fans.
Such a shame about the weather. It has been teeming down for hours here in the build-up to kick-off. Normally the piazza there outside the Estadio della Ceramica would be packed full of fans from the home team and the visiting fans as well. But as it is, they've been sheltering in the bars and restaurants around the stadium, all really good-natured. But of course it's the Liverpool fans who will be feeling very confident of reaching yet another Champions League final.
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm always nervous going into a semi-final. It's what's at the end of the semi-final that really counts, isn't it? It's the final and winning the finals.
You never know. If they get an early goal, it'll be a bit tense.
And these are the days, aren't they, to be a Liverpool fan?
Incredible times to be a Liverpool fan. It's the best time of my life.
They've had a wonderful season. The manager's doing an amazing job. Tied him up for another 2 years. Great stuff. And it's just a joy to watch him.
This run we've got this season, can't beat it. Cannot beat it at all.
So those are the thoughts of some of those Liverpool fans who have been sheltering from this dreadful weather here in Villarreal. I've managed to drag one of them outside, John Gibbons from the Anfield Wrap. Made your way up from sunny Benidorm, John. Weren't expecting this, but what are we expecting in the match?
Yeah, I'm hoping Liverpool will come out firing. You know, we're in a fantastic position in the tie, but we can't be complacent. But I don't think this team are. I think they're too professional. I think they're too strong and too determined at the moment. So I'm expecting another great Liverpool performance in very different conditions to what we were expecting. There's a lot of boys and girls not necessarily dressed for this, but the team will be ready, and that's what matters.
Yeah, some wardrobe failures there. They didn't read the forecast. Did you ever expect yourself to be in this position at the beginning of May?
No, I don't think so. I thought we'd challenge, but not for everything. And that's the incredible thing about this season, is that we've played every game we could possibly play, and we're still in the hunt for all 4 trophies. And no one could have expected that. I thought we'd go well in this competition, because we often do. I thought we'd make a better fist in the league than we did the last season, but to be going for everything is unbelievable. We're all in dreamland here.
John Gibbons from the Anfield Wrap. Stay dry. Many thanks indeed. So, of course, Liverpool 1 foot in the final with that 2-0 advantage. Manchester City or Real Madrid waiting in that final. They play in the Spanish capital tomorrow.
Ollie Foster there, BBC Radio Merseyside has coverage tonight. It might be an away game, but the weather's going to make it feel like they're at home, isn't it? The Manchester-born comedian Steve Coogan is taking his most famous creation on tour around the UK this month. Alan Partridge, of course, is on stage, and what he's doing is he's outlining his plan to unite the disunited kingdom. He's in Liverpool and in Manchester in a couple of weeks' time, and I asked Steve if he's looking forward to coming home.
Hello, I'm Alan Partridge. Join me as I tour the UK with Stratagem, my brand new live show. A plan for us to build back better and bounce back bolder.
I'm expecting, touch wood, a warm welcome, because whenever I have played Manchester, it is my hometown, and the people who come to see me know that. It'll be a highlight of the tour, I think. and also I've got friends and family coming. So.
And this is all about Alan Partridge uniting the United Kingdom. You know, a country that is very divided. Probably, you know, we're probably a similar age. Do you feel it's a more? I suppose there were times in the 80s when it was very divided, but it feels a divided country.
It does feel divided, but and people, especially with social media, get very, very entrenched. That kind of black and white tribalism is encouraged because it encourages clickbait, it encourages traffic, but it doesn't encourage civilised conversation.
And Alan Partridge is the man to unite us.
Yes. But Alan is. We thought, what would he do if he's on stage and trying to heal the nation? That sort of arrogant kind of scale of ambition we thought would suit Alan. Alan tries to do everything, be all things to all men and women, and also helping people interpret and deal with the modern world. The more contentious the subject matter, the more likely we are to talk about it with Alan, because it's sort of expected that he will
put his foot in it.
Put his foot in it, and also people find it a release because it's nice to laugh at things. It's enjoyable to laugh at things when they're sort of a little bit. There's a bit of a taboo surrounding them.
That is the shoe that was worn by the horse that trampled that suffragette. Trying to remember her name.
Emily Davison.
No, the horse.
He's been such a big part of your career. Do you love him? Do you still love him?
Yeah, well, no, I sort of had a love-hate relationship with him, and the more success I had in other areas, the more likely I was to return to Alan. So
you're not stereotyped and typecast as Alan Partridge?
No, I mean, obviously most people know me as that, but I'm quite comfortable with that because it has been, it's opened opportunities for me in other areas. When I do more serious things and dramas and the like, it's nice to come back to Alan and just do something that is broad, funny comedy without particularly trying to have great depth. It's just it's sort of a chance to let your hair down, and the live show is exactly that. Being in a room full of people laughing at the same time is a really enjoyable experience, because as you say about being a divided nation, that I thought, well, in this audience there are going to be people who have different points of view about things and different, by din of just the numbers, and different perspectives on things. But if we're all laughing at the same time, your differences are sort of put aside.
Exactly, comedy brings you together.
Yeah, and so I was acutely aware of that in the first few gigs, and so that's what I think people are sort of ready for it.
And just a final thought, you mentioned some of the more serious roles that you've done. I mean, Stan and Ollie was hugely acclaimed. The Jimmy Savile programme is coming out later in the year. How difficult a decision was that for you to play somebody who at one time was revered, of course, but now is reviled? Was that a tough choice?
I didn't do it immediately. I didn't decide to do it immediately because I knew it would be contentious. People, ordinary people, felt personally betrayed.
Betrayal of trust, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly, for the whole nation. So there's this strange personal connection and revulsion that is understandable, but by the same token, the way to deal with that is not to just not talk about it, which a lot of people understandably want to do. But that's not the way you deal with something. And also, if you want to prevent things happening again the same way, the question that a lot of people ask is, how did you get away with it? People always say that. Well, the drama, I think, answers that question.
We wish you well with that. More immediately, we wish you well with Stratagem back on stage in the North West. And Steve, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Cheers.
So he's in Liverpool and Manchester next week and Blackpool the week after. I think there are still a few tickets available. If you want to see Alan Partridge, well, you could just watch North West tonight. There's a few people have compared me with him over the years. Simon, we finally had some rain for the gardens.
We did indeed, didn't we? Finally, it's been a very dry April and, yeah, a bit of rainfall. That's good news. And there's still a bit more rain to come actually throughout this week, but temperatures will eventually start to rise as we get into the end of the week. Today's been a rather grey, cloudy sort of day. Not too inspiring, really. And overnight tonight, we're going to see some showers moving their way through. You can see quite a lot of showers actually on the map there into the early part of tomorrow morning. A fairly mild night, temperatures no lower than about 10 or 11 degrees Celsius. But first thing tomorrow morning, if you're commuting, certainly there'll be quite a few puddles on the roads, quite a bit of spray. That showery rain is going to spread to the southeast. So you notice behind it, certainly for the Isle of Man and the western areas of our region, there'll be some sunny spells by the end of the day. So those showers clearing, and then there'll be some sunshine. It'll feel warmer than today. Temperatures getting up to about maybe 16, 17 degrees Celsius in the best of the sunshine. Then into Thursday, we've just got this nose, this ridge of high pressure that starts to move its way in before another weather front moves through on Friday, bringing further outbreaks of rain. So Thursday is looking like a drier day again. There'll be some brighter sunny spells, 1 or 2 showers perhaps moving their way through Cumbria. But with those sunny spells, temperatures starting to rise, 15 to 17 degrees Celsius. And you can see that milder air as we go through the end of the week. Colder air does try to come in across the UK, but that milder air bumps it away again. So temperatures will be on the rise as we go into the weekend. And again, there'll be some sunshine as well. So it's going to feel quite pleasant. Now, this is Friday. I mentioned a bit of rain on Friday. That weather front moving its way south and eastward through the day. So becoming more showery as it spreads into the southeast. Maximum temperatures, well, again, once again, getting up into the mid to the high teens. But by Saturday, Sunday, they'll be up to 18, even 19 degrees.
Wow. And April was one of the driest ever, wasn't it?
It wasn't quite in the top 10, but it was certainly dry. We had about 60% of the average rainfall.
Well done. I threw that at you out of
did.
nowhere.
I had no idea that was coming.
Thank you for watching.
Bye-bye.
Have a lovely evening. Well done, sorry.